GameWorn Radio is on the air.
Hey! Chilton scores! Popping the Cordova, baby! We're going bowling. Now, let's go hunt moose on a Harley. The fires, he scores! L.A. face with an Oakland booty. Make me a bicycle club. They score! Bowmeister paid that man his money.
GameWorn Radio.
Hey everybody, my name is Derek. I'm with GameWorn.us. We are broadcasting GameWorn Radio live to you right now, and for our listeners listening later, we'll take some questions and answers on the forums and try and get to you guys next week. Right now I'm joined with Jason from last week and Paul Rank from out in San Jose. How you guys doing today?
Fantastic.
Doing well, Derek.
Alright, Paul, well, you're new to us, so go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself and what your interests are in the GameWorn collecting hobby. And then from there, we'll go ahead and get started on talking about Jason's wrap-up of the St. Louis Blues sale from this weekend.
Cool. I live in San Jose, but from the East Coast, and my primary collecting focus is University of Michigan, former Wolverines, and Red Wings, even though I am a Shark season ticket holder, which a lot of people out here have a hard time understanding.
It's not too hard when they treat you right.
Yes, they do, which is always nice. So, in a nutshell, that's it. And been collecting for, I don't even know, 5-10 years. And like I said, mostly focus on Michigan, which makes it a little bit challenging out here, but always fun.
Really glad to have you, Paul. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, definitely, Paul.
Thank you.
All right, Jason, tell me a little bit about the St. Louis Blues sale to the best of your ability.
Well, and it's funny because we talked about it last week, and I think we were waiting for the date at that time, and then that Monday afternoon, they put it out that the sale was going to be this past Saturday. Doors opening at 11 for season ticket holders and noon for everybody else. So as somebody who's not a Blues season ticket holder, I reached out to see if I could procure a pass from somebody that wasn't going. And luck would have it, a friend of mine from Pekin area, which is a half hour for me, wasn't going. I picked up his pass. Me and a buddy went down, got in line. I got there about 9:30, and there was probably about 30 people ahead of us, mostly, if not all, season ticket holders. So they let us into the arena about 10, told us that with the passes, and they hadn't shared this before, that if you had a season ticket pass, you could bring one guest along. So I had two friends show up. So we all went in.
Ooh, you're getting a little staticky.
And they were doing it. It was weird because they were doing it in the hallway, like the concourse of the Sky Trade Center.
Hold on,
Last year it was much bigger. And they down on the ice, basically the floor.
We're getting a little static. I'm going to reset something here real quick, just a second.
Sure.
All right, sounds way better now. Let's go ahead. So
Okay,
you got there with your season pass.
Yeah, so we got the season passes and got to the arena. They let us check in, basically, told us that we could bring a guest in if we had any season pass could bring one guest. So I had a couple friends that came by, let them join in with us. So, the amount of people wasn't crazy. It was a lot more people early on last year than this year. So they finally opened the doors, and like it was in the hallway concourse area of Scott Trade. So when the minute the doors opened, they said, if you run, we're going to stop this and reset it all. So whatever. We get in there. They had one side of the hallway was goalie equipment, pants, pads, catch gloves, blockers, all that stuff. And then on the other side was gloves, helmets, laundry bags, shoulder pads, shin guards, all that stuff. And then as you went farther down, there was racks and racks of gloves, and then more goalie gear. Then the sticks, which were all kind of shoved into the corner. The way they did it at Scott Trade sucked. And then they had a roped off area where the skates were. So they actually let only in a few at a time to the skates, because most people were buying them to wear them. So they actually had chairs off to the side for people to try them on.
That's pretty cool.
But with Oh yeah, which that particular piece of it I think was excellent. Overall, it was a complete cluster because when they announced it last year when they did it, they didn't give any advantage to season ticket holders. When you got in line, that's where you were in line, and they let in so many at a time down to the Flora Scott trade. This, when they said when we open the gates, it's just going to be a flow traffic through for all the season ticket holders, and then thereafter, once noon hit, they were going to let the regular people in. Within 15 to 20 minutes, 80 to 90% of the regular gear was gone, minus sticks and skates. A lot of the goalie gear remained around because they were wanting 600 for the pads, 250 for gloves and blockers, and 100 for chest protectors, which I hadn't seen at previous sales. There was piles of helmets, and a lot of people were grabbing 5, 6, 8 of them, which whatever. Helmets are hard to get a hold of, especially from the Blues, so people are going after them. Gloves the same way. We're just flying off the shelves. They had a lot. I mean, socks and that kind of crap. Where people were getting them if they could, but it was just. I don't have to send you the pictures. I meant to get them to you before. It was just a mass of people, and it was funny. By the time we got out of there, I bought a pair of Jake Allen's pads for playing goalie, a couple, a white and a navy helmet for myself, and one for somebody else. A pair of Steen gloves, some elbow pads that I needed, and a pair of Steen. I needed some new skates. I got the brand new AX, well, the AX3s. They're $850 skates for $200.
That's a steal.
Oh God, yes. And then waiting in line, even checking out, didn't take that long. But I mean, it was just the concourse for the down the main area of the Scott trade isn't that wide to begin with. When you put 200 to 300 and some season ticket holders there, plus guests, got packed quickly. A lot of people have been bitching about getting pushed aside with other people were trying to grab gear, things like that, and some of how that was managed. There wasn't any management. They basically opened the door and said, "Here you go."
So it's pretty much
We got
just a
out of
big
there.
free for all.
Yeah, exactly. We got out of there because the doors open at 11. I was on the road to Total Hockey by noon to get my skates baked and sharpened. And by the time I got to Total Hockey, 15 minutes later, the Blues put out a message via their app and their Facebook page that they were down to left-handed sticks only, skates, and goalie gear.
Wow.
So most people outside of season ticket holders or people like me that had those passes didn't get gloves, didn't get helmets, none of that kind of stuff. I'm reading a ton of stuff on different pages. People were just royally pissed how the Blues did it, bitching that the season ticket holders got everything, or people that used those passes took way too many helmets or gloves or whatever. But I'm assuming that may happen in a lot of sales.
Hey Paul, at the San Jose Shark sale, did you guys experience any of that? Were there any complaints about how they handled it or anything this year?
This year they handled it well. This year was different. First off, it was the first year at the Shark Tank on the ice floor. In the past, it's been at the connector area at Shark's Ice, which is a much smaller space. And the Shark sale is actually 3 days long. The first day is suite holders and owners and club sponsors, and then some other groups can get in, such as employees, police, firemen, and stuff. And that day's pretty calm. The second day is a zoo. That's a season ticket holder day. And a lot of stuff goes that day. And then the final day, it's open to the general public, and I've never seen it like it was this year. At the end of the sale, there were still a lot of gloves left. This was the first year all the goalie gear went, except for a blocker and glove from, I think it was Anderson. So someone who was left-handed, not right-handed. And then
send that my way, Paul. I'm full right.
Are you really?
Yeah, and the blockers and gloves were reasonably priced in San Jose. They're mostly about $125 each.
God, that's a steal.
Yeah, pads are usually $600, and they do sell those out every year. But this year all the goalie stuff went except for that one blocker and glove. Lots and lots of gloves left, and gloves were reasonably priced. I think they were $90 for new gloves, and ranging from $25 to $100 for used gloves.
And the Blues did 75, or I'm sorry, no, 100 for used and 100 and a quarter for new. So they were up a little bit on price because last year they were between 50 and 75.
Now, before we talked about the memorabilia prices versus game worn prices or just used equipment prices, and I kind of feel like the St. Louis Blues weren't too far off from a good median, and it sounds like they did pretty well. It sounds like everything went.
And I agree. Yeah, I agree totally with that because the sticks started at $100 and went up from there. The most expensive were Tarasenko's, I think at 300 if I remember right. But some of that was because they knew so many people would be going for those. But even at the end of the day, people were saying that there were Oshie skates sitting there and Bacchus skates because some of those guys, God, Steen had probably had 40 pairs of skates there. Because me and a buddy both got a set, and everybody I ran into at Total Hockey seemed to have a set of Steen skates. So there wasn't a lot of wear to those. Those were damn near brand new.
Sounds like a new pair every game.
Yeah, but the biggest complaint from a lot of people were the season ticket holders or people that got those passes just taking everything. But I mean, and I don't know what it sounds like. The Sharks may have a larger amount of equipment because Paul, don't they bring their AHL stuff there as well?
This year they had a sale in Worcester, and most of the stuff was sold there. There was a few AHL things here. Matter of fact, I picked up Byron Lurg's Cleveland helmet from when he played for the Monsters.
Oh, nice.
How that got there, I have no idea. But, there was some stuff from Cleveland. There was some stuff, a few helmets from Worcester, but not too much. Next year, I don't know how they're going to handle it with the Worcester Sharks moving out here.
Yeah, that'll be really interesting to see exactly what they do with the close proximity in the relationship of the teams.
Yeah, the whole staff there is wondering how they're going to do it too. It should be interesting. No, I am a little bit. I mean, the prices seem reasonable at St. Louis, but it didn't seem like prices you could buy a whole bunch of stuff and flip it right away on eBay at a high profit.
Of course, I'm still sure there are people trying to do that.
I've surprisingly enough, at least so far, and maybe the ones that would do that are kind of holding off. But most people I've seen, even ones that are flipping stuff on, like some of the Blues Facebook pages I'm on, are selling it for what they paid. They got an extra Tarasenko or Oshie stick, but they're not trying to make more money. They're saying, "Here's the $200 I paid. I just got an extra and now don't need it." But a lot of people were trying to track down helmets that didn't get them. That was the biggest thing. And I wasn't getting guys that nobody. I mean, people were trying to find the Tarasenko ones or the Bacchus and stuff. I ended up with an Ian Cole, who's no longer with the Blues, and a LaPierre, who's also or Lapierre, who's also not with the Blues. But I wanted a white and navy to play in, and they both have the nice Oakley visors on them. Because I make a lot of people upset when I buy that stuff to then tell them I'm using them to play in over putting them on my wall.
Whatever. I've got some Shark stuff I play in, and it's great.
Well, at the Shark sale, that's where a lot of the gloves and helmets go. Part-time employees get access before season ticket holders. And we have Sharks Ice out here. It has 4 sheets of ice. And all the part-time employees there get access before season ticket holders. So they do buy a number of gloves and helmets and stuff, all to play in. And lots of sticks, because the stick pricing is very attractive at the Shark sale.
Yeah, I like it when you can go in and they're actually trying to help out the community and make hockey a little bit cheaper for people to try or at least continue to play. That's really cool to me.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so
But
St. Louis.
I think the Blues are gonna learn. The ownership and the management's gonna hear about it from a lot of people. I mean, it's the big bitch between what do season ticket holders get and what do the normal fans get, and can we meet somewhere in the middle? Because honestly, I thought last year was done much better. They let so many people in the floor at once. It was maybe 6 or 8 at a time. They gave them maybe 5 or so minutes and then added a few more, and they just opened the floodgates this time, and it failed. I mean, I don't get it. There needs to be a happy medium. I'm happy with what I got, but like I said, I was going for certain reasons. The other people that I was with were going for one wanted a catch glove and a blocker because he plays goalie and that kind of stuff. But none of our group that was there were going for player specific. It was just this is pro gear to nice stuff to play in.
Now, on the adverse side of that, at least you didn't have anything like what happened at the Ohio State sale.
Oh yeah, exactly.
So that, I mean, granted, it sounds like it was a real cluster out there. You don't have somebody going in, grabbing up as much as they can fit in their hands, taking it over the corner, trying to weed through it, and then go ahead and flip it on eBay. So that sounds like a pretty big win, in my opinion.
I think the key
hopefully
word is trying to flip on eBay. I don't see too many of those Ohio State jerseys selling at the prices he's asking.
No, not at all.
and only time will tell. That'll be the biggest thing with that is I think maybe people are going to wait to kind of let the bad taste in their mouth settle before they throw this stuff out there, because if they stick it out there now, everybody's just going to get pissed at them for trying to flip it.
Yeah, that's very true, and we'll have to keep an eye on that and see how that situation develops. All right, so I think that wraps up the equipment sale part of the show pretty well. I'm sure we'll probably touch back on it here and there as we continue more broadcasts. I know one of the things on our docket to talk about this week is going to be oddest pieces of equipment, and I'm sure that can range from different things of various different people. We haven't had a lot of submissions to actually talk about that. But I mean, we can see what each of us got and what we think would be the weirdest. But we can also continue on from there. So we'll see where this goes.
Sure.
So I'll go ahead and let you start, Jason. What do you got?
One of the pieces I will say, one of the pieces I saw last year that somebody was selling, and it was a funny joke to me, and I almost bought the piece to get it. But the guy had gotten Elliot's goalie pants, but it also included his cup.
Oh, that's
we gave
gross.
The wonderful goalie cup, so we gave him a hard time about that. My most interesting piece is not actually a game-worn piece, but it's one of the rare pieces that are hard to find. It's the mid-'90s goalie mask telephone. It's a Blues goalie mask on a wood mount, and it's got the an old phone, wired phone, mounted to the back of it.
Do you use it?
I don't have a phone jack in my apartment. I would otherwise.
Yeah, it's a bit outdated. Paul, what do you got that's kind of weird or odd?
You know, I hadn't really thought about this before. I didn't know we were discussing oddest pieces of memorabilia on this show. Maybe I should read the agenda before phoning in. Note to self. One thing I thought that was really cool at the Shark sale, they had it a couple of years ago, and again this year, they have the actual goals and nets from the SAP Center that were used in the games. And it was, I'm thinking it was $600 or $800 for the pair of nets, which honestly, I have no room for it, in our garden or our house, but I thought that would be really cool. I mean, there's a few items I have which I wouldn't call them odd or anything, but which I think are really cool. I have, kickboards from Yost Arena. Would love to have some stuff from Joe Louis Arena when we finally tear it down. It's not what you're asking, but one of the coolest things I have in my collection is actually a jersey that Derek picked up for me at the sale. And I know he knows where I'm going with this. It's the Pavel Datsyuk preseason jersey and Pavel Datsyuk training camp jerseys, two different jerseys of number 24 that were worn previously by Ruslan Soleil and Chelios.
Oh, and wow.
After the Lokomotiv tragedy, Pavel switched to 24 in his jerseys because the Wings recycled them for a number of years in the preseason and training camp. And Paul Boyer actually tipped me off to that they were eventually going to be on sale. I asked Derek to pick them up for me, and he came through. I mean, it's one of the coolest things in my collection. If they ever go anywhere, they're going to Derek. So.
Yeah, it was pretty hard to give those up after I had them in my hands, but I did make a promise to Paul, plus I wouldn't have known they would have been there anyway. So I had to do the right thing. As much as you don't want to do the right thing sometimes.
Both
Sure, but
Monica
that's
and I
what makes that stuff cool.
All right. I guess it's my turn. The weirdest thing I have isn't really weird on its own. It's more or less weird when you put it all together. So it's no secret that I'm a pretty big Luke Glendening fan. I've got a bunch of his jerseys and things like that. I've got a helmet, pants, skates, gloves, jersey. I'm working on a stick, game school plug. But I've got a mannequin in the basement that I have all that equipment on. So people think that's kind of weird. I think it's awesome. I think, having the full setup. I've got the mannequin with the helmet on. He's got the skates on, pretty cool, standing up. Pants, gloves, first gold jersey. Pretty much everything except for the skates are photo matched to his first goal as well. So I think that makes it pretty epic in its own right. So, you piece it apart, you don't put it on the mannequin. Not so weird, but when people think for some reason when you put on a mannequin, yo, that's weird, man. I don't think it's that bad, but some people do.
As Derek, as long as you're not sitting down there talking to it, I think it's okay.
I've never really checked to see how the mannequin's doing. He more or less sits there and kind of like, I've got him in a waving position right now. So when you want, I think I've scared my wife a few times. She goes down the stairs to get something, and here's this mannequin waving at you. You forget it's there, and it's a figure, and you just kind of freak out. Sometimes you hear her scream. It's pretty funny.
You gotta randomly move it around the room to really catch her off guard.
I'm gonna put it on a remote control because I got wheels under it, so I can move it easily. I'm gonna put some RC car stuff on there and move it around the room when she goes down there. Figure out real good.
That would, and please videotape that so we can share that on the page.
Oh, she'd kill me, but I'm okay with that.
And I know there's got to be a lot of odd things out there, or different things that people have collected. Even the giveaway or the stuff that's been sold in the past that are odd. Like I've got and I know other teams are doing it. There's even some this year. The year the Avalanche won the Cup, I was kind of in the Avalanche way back then, and I bought the ice, quote unquote, that they melted down and put in little plastic pucks and sold on a stand.
They do something similar like that to baseball, like when they have milestone achievements or something, they put a little bit of sand in jars and distribute that. So I kind of know where you're going with on that.
And I know the Hawks did one too, where they took, and I can't think of what the hell they called it, but basically they took different players' gear. There's a lot of stuff that was just kind of, just totally roached. They chopped it up into pieces, and you would buy this jar that it gave like an ingredients jar. It would be like part of Tave's stick and part of somebody else's helmet and part of these guys' pants, and all these pieces would be in this jar, and they'd seal it and they'd list as like an ingredients list of whose pieces were what.
That's actually pretty neat. At least it's not cutting up a jersey and putting it in a card.
Yeah, exactly. Don't even get us started on that one.
I think that's going to be an entirely new radio show topic. I got to add that to the list.
Oh, please, yes. We'll all have a field day with that one.
Yeah, I'll have to get the censor button ready.
Do we have anyone who has a dissenting opinion on that to at least make it interesting?
I'm sure we can find someone. We gotta search the card collectors that actually think that stuff is cool.
That would actually be a really interesting show. Have someone who can defend it, because there is some logic to it. That's the nicest thing I'm going to say about it.
The only part of that doesn't bother me is if they use the single event worn jersey where that jersey's designated for them up front, and you're not destroying a milestone jersey or an old antique jersey to put pieces in a damn card.
It's pretty funny because I actually got into jersey collecting through hockey card collecting. So hockey cards was kind of my gateway. Once I realized that, I can own the entire thing as opposed to just a small little piece. That hooked me pretty good. And I know that story is the same for a handful of other people. But, you look back and you realize, what was I thinking? Like, I was a terrible person.
Sure. Oh yeah. When we all become game jersey collectors, that is like the thing. Is I know very few people that stuck with hockey cards once they got into jerseys because yeah, instead of a one by one piece, you've got the whole thing and you can find the marks and you can photo match it or do this and you can put the damn thing on.
Yeah, wear it to games, show it off.
Yep. Yeah, who gives a damn about a card with the little piece of fabric? You can't even tell where the hell it came from on the jersey.
Well, now the stuff's getting even worse. Like, they're showcasing the migrate tag off of jerseys in cards. Like, it's not even a piece of the jersey anymore. It's the migrate tag.
And I think it's funny. I think Barry has a whole collection of those that people have sold to him over the years since that started. I think he has. I've checked on it for sure, but I think he has quite a few of them that he's picked up.
Oh,
But
we'll have to get him on and see
sounds,
if we can get him to talking about it.
yeah, definitely. But I think with some of that too is looking at it. I hate to go this direction with it, but when you've got Migrate where they've got a plethora of jerseys from the same player, if you're wrecking one of those, I can kind of get along with that, but especially like I said, the when you go back where players were wearing 2 a year maybe or 4 a year, that's when it bothers me.
Yeah, I can completely understand that.
But if you have a bunch of jerseys that you can't sell, are people really interested in a card with part of a jersey in it from that player?
My opinion on that is a lot of these card collectors don't really care or look into the provenance of the jersey or the piece of a jersey that's on the card. They just say, oh, this player wore it, that's cool. And you'll notice on the back of some of those ones they'll say, especially for like rookie card ones, I've seen it where it's like, what do they write? They say it's event worn at rookie photo shoot or something like that, because obviously the player couldn't have played, but they treat it just like gold anyway.
But at least they went to that where they started describing it that way, because I know before when they came out, it was, this is a game worn jersey card, and people started calling them out, and I think that's when some of that wording changed.
That makes sense, but yeah, kind of along the lines with that, and Oddest equipment, whatever. I do have a hockey card that has a piece of the Dasher board from Joe Louis. So
now
I guess that's
cool.
pretty cool. And it's funny, it doesn't have a Detroit Red Wings player on the card. I think he was. I think it's a New York Islanders player on the card, showcase featured, but on the back it says this is a piece of Joe Louis Arena Dasher boards. It's so weird.
Why the hell would they have done that?
I have no clue. It always vexed me. It just seems like it was something for them to do at the time. Like, oh, we got our hands on this, so we're just gonna start throwing them in cards, and everybody gets a piece. It doesn't make any rhyme or reason.
So semi-related, what are the Islanders doing with all the stuff from the arena?
Oh, that's true.
I haven't heard. I know they were putting all kinds of pictures of them taking the ice down and everything. I wonder if they'll do some kind of an auction with that or do some kind of big sale over the summer, because my God, they'll be cleaning house big time.
Well, I know earlier in the season that during the playoffs, people were already taking chairs, even though they had more games to play. It was like game 2 or something, and they were taking chairs or something.
Nice.
So the next person that has to go. Yeah, they would bring like screwdrivers or wrench kits or something and just start taking the part that you sit on. So the next fan that has to go sit in that seat doesn't have anything to sit on. It was pretty funny. There was a few pictures that you could find here and there about them.
Well, Derek knows we could do that at the Sharks games with my season tickets. If people who don't, they're folding chairs where we're sitting at, so that they can be removed quickly. But they're great. The location's great. That's why I put up with folding chairs. I do know for the Islanders, they were saving the water or the ice No idea what they're planning on doing with it.
Yeah,
I
that'll
saw
be pretty
photos
interesting.
stashing that away.
Like the whole surface, or just like a little bit of it?
It looked like they were putting it in the buckets, letting it melt, and then who knows how they'll sell it.
Hmm. That'd be really interesting to see.
Because Chicago did that last time they won the cup. They were selling small vials of the ice. So I bet I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they do the same thing. Hey, people will pay for anything like that. And you mentioned seat the sitting part of the seat at the Islanders game. I've got a seat back and a brick from the old Checkerdome Blues Arena in St. Louis. Because when they tore it down, they sold full seats. Then they took some apart for just seat backs, and then the bricks, and they put a piece on the brick to signify what it was and that. But people, hey, any collector, if it's, I mean, you may be able to sell absolutely anything, and you're selling the water that was once the ice of different places. People will pay money for it.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if anybody actually has like a collection of that, like trying to get a little bit from each playing surface, or anything like that. I wonder if we can find somebody of that.
Now, I do have part of the old AstroTurf, the old hard, incredibly nasty stuff from Michigan Stadium. Obviously not hockey related, but back in, what was it, late 80s, early 90s, they went to real grass and they ripped out the stuff, and I was able to get a good chunk of that. And it's not odd. It's pretty cool, though. I also had a friend got me some turf from Ohio State, but I have since given that away. So
Oh, you didn't want any Ohio State turf?
I'm sorry?
You didn't want any Ohio State turf? I know you love Ohio State.
No, I had a good friend who was a huge fan of them, so I gave that away to him. But the Michigan one's in our living room, right by the Yost kickboards.
Cool. All right. Well, I don't know if there's really much more to talk about that topic, but we can spawn off into one of the other ones that we have listed if you'd like.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you guys want to talk about distribution channels and how teams sell their jerseys?
I'm definitely all for that.
All right.
Interesting. Yeah.
We could probably get a couple shows out of that topic alone, so we'll see what we can hammer out. It looks like we got about a half hour of radio time left, so let's go ahead and use that up. One of the ways, obviously, everybody knows of distribution is going to be MyGray. They're one of the most prominent in the hobby right now, but one of the things that is kind of hard is if your team isn't going through MyGray, how do they distribute jerseys? I know it's a little bit more murky now in the AHL and the ECHL that MyGray isn't handling all the teams like they once were 2 years ago. I know with my local team, Toledo Walleye, they're actually selling their own jerseys, and that's kind of a little weird situation with how they're actually doing it. Between actually selling the jerseys, archiving them, giving them to players and things like that, it's really hard to know where the different jerseys are going to be going. With the Red Wings, we get to go to the equipment sale, and all the jerseys that are going to be there are there, and that's not a bad thing either. Some of them sell them online. Some of them say they can't sell them online because of, what is it, the CBA rules? Yeah. So I mean, it's hard to completely determine exactly where your team is going to be selling their jerseys, or even if they're going to be selling them for very long, such as MyGray teams. You see MyGray adding and removing teams year over year, so it's a really hard determination factor. I know, Jason, you have kind of an insight as to how the Blues handle it.
And it's so screwed up. I mean, it goes back and forth because we talked about it some in the last show. Is the third set a company out of Florida, and I can't remember their name off the top of my head, bought the set. Thank you. They bought him and were selling them. They had a list, and I know people were calling in, and then they put what's remaining out on eBay. Some mostly with set reserves. Few of them are buy it nows or best price. Then the playoff set, which wore for 20 minutes, ended up in the store. Yeah, They ended up in the store. Somebody found out that they were in there, and then between all the Blues pages I follow on Facebook, there were messages out, and I was sent private messages by a few collectors saying, "Hey, they're available. Here's the prices, and they're going fast." And they were about half in almost every case of what Fanatics was. But of course, the other set was worn a little bit longer. Um, the Blues have been really hit and miss. Sometimes they'll show up in the shop. So, last year they did NHL use the NHL auctions to do a set, and I don't know if the players get a set or if they're putting some in their 14 fund or locking some in the closet. But I've never seen all the sets show up, and they wore a crap ton out of their third jerseys this year. I've not seen them anywhere yet.
It's funny you should mention jerseys that you don't see anywhere, because I have no idea how Tampa Bay sells their jerseys. I don't even think they sell their jerseys. I haven't seen any recent ones at all anytime lately. You know, you can just about track
each
down.
Each team's different.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what is it? Is it the Calgary Flames that actually allow you to purchase them through a shopping cart system on the web, or are they the ones that you got to call in? I know
you have to call the Flames, and unfortunately, their online inventory's a few days behind.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the hard parts about when you have to call in to make an order. You got to check to see if the stock's still available. I know we're over at GameWorn.us. One of the things we're working with is some teams that don't have maybe the exposure. One of our teams is the Syracuse Crunch. They auction off the jerseys themselves on their online auctions, but they can definitely be doing better. A lot of people don't know that they actually do that, so we've been partnering with them. We kind of missed the boat with this most recent auction just because I didn't know what was going on at the time. I couldn't get an article out about it, but we're going to be helping them. Anything that didn't sell, we're going to be trying to help find new homes for them. I know we did the Frozen Dome Classic masks from the goalies earlier this year. I think the Godlewski is still available, but you know, we try to help out teams that need it and get some more exposure for them, especially if they don't have like a dedicated point of distribution. It definitely helps to get the word out.
Sure, and it seems in a lot of cases the AHL and the East Coast Hockey League teams, good portion of them seem to do either right at the end of the year do live auctions or silent auctions on them, which then you're limited to those fans. But I know some of them like to reward to keep it there because it's their fans that they really want to have the jerseys that are right there. But I'll give you a funny example, and of course they're much lower level now, is the Peoria Rivermen, which are in the SPHL now, did their jerseys this year. They stuck them up a list on their Facebook page, and you had to email in your bid. The starting bid was $200, and then they'd put out an updated list every day of these are who has the bids. They just put their initials with them, and I thought that was the most backwards way to do it with all the technology out there. You're like, here's a picture of the auction list, email it to us, tell us who you want to bid on. But I wish there was more of kind of a generic way. Now, how come some teams can't do it or say they can't do it because of the CBA?
Paul, I think you know a little bit more about that one than I do.
I hate to admit it, but I've read most of the CBA. I don't know why I've done that. The CBA basically says you need to do an accounting of any sales of game-worn stuff or anything where you're forget the wording, where you're making money off the player, because then that needs to go into the revenue sharing. The current CBA says nothing about online sales. That's why the Minnesota Wild allow you to purchase jerseys in a shopping cart system. I think the Flames would go to that, but they're having trouble with their inventory control. And on 2 occasions out of 6 jerseys I've ordered, I've gotten the wrong jersey. It worked out good in the end, but you know they're just not. They have issues with something on their technical side. I don't know exactly what it is. So within the CBA, as from my reading, there's no limitations on why you cannot sell online as long as you account for that revenue.
Makes sense. And if you're doing it online, you've got the electronic records of all that stuff. As long as you've got the people behind it knowing what the hell they're doing.
I think the hardest part about the online sales for a team, or at least maybe what they're looking at, is if they keep items in their store and they sell it on the store, it's still online until they remove that stock, unless they have a tied together system, which can be pretty expensive. That would be the only downside I can really see to it.
And maybe going forward, teams will start figuring that stuff out. And as we mentioned some last week, teams, more and more teams are realizing how big a market there is for that stuff.
It's funny. I think there are teams that are recognizing that, and then I think there's teams that are completely missing the boat. I know I've been trying to talk to my hometown team a little bit about how they handle their things. Um, they do kind of like a request list, if you will, where at some magical time you email in and you can say, all right, if this one becomes available, because we don't really know it's going to be available, I would like to buy it, and the price is a standard price, and everybody's jersey price is the same price, no matter the player, no matter the color, the set, anything like that. And one of the hard things we're finding is, people are walking away with a specific player who might be a really popular player. Well, I asked them about this way before the beginning of the year when we picked up the player, and you asked for it last week. So how did you get it and I didn't? And I think that's one of the hard things about trying to figure out a good system that works for everyone and balancing that between teams that really care. And that's kind of one of the things we're trying to do, or at least working with the crunch to develop that, is a system where it's a platform that fits for everybody. At the same time, everybody's going to know what's available, and it can either be a first come first serve because you read an article that was written, or even the auction style works because then the person who wants it the most pays the most.
Sure.
And I mean, I don't think that's completely outlandish. You see that all the time, and I think that's a really good system.
And I just got a message from one of the guys that's listening to the show live right now, Tom. He said the Avalanche kept all the game-worn regular season jerseys of the Lake Erie Monsters, even though the team's moving to San Antonio.
They kept them all?
Yeah, they kept the regular season jerseys of the Lake Erie Monsters, even though they're moving. I'm curious what the reasoning is for that.
Yeah, what are they going to do with them? I mean, I could see archival purposes, but maybe not an entire, like, every jersey, every player from that team.
Yeah, because, I mean, if you've got the guys that are looking to maybe go somewhere, I could see that. But if you got a guy that was there 2 weeks, who gives a damn?
Yeah. Paul, one of the interesting teams, or one of the teams that do something interesting is the University of Michigan. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, all the jerseys at Michigan are a blind auction at the end of the season. They'll send out an announcement to people who have bid before. They'll put it on their Facebook page. They'll put it on mgoblue.com. There's a website for it. Starting bid is, I think, $200, $225 per jersey, and it is completely blind. The good thing is they deduct the value of the jersey and its generic value. Everything above that's considered a donation for tax purposes. It's hard to figure out, how do you bid on someone like Jacob Trouba? He's there 1 year. You really want his jersey. I know all his jerseys went for well above 2,000.
Wow.
I think the hard part with that system too is bidding on a budget. Like, there could be a number of jerseys that you want. How do you know when you're outbid? You don't.
You don't.
So you could end up getting stuck with a bunch of jerseys that, yes, you wanted, but you really wanted one more than another, but you bid on both just in case you didn't get one, and now you got both.
You can actually, in your bid, say, I want to bid, $1,000 on these 2 jerseys. If I win this one, fine. If not, then put the bid on this second jersey. You
Oh,
can
that's
do
pretty cool.
some limited logic in there that is easy for the people reviewing the bids to understand. If you make it too complicated, it might not work out.
That makes sense. I think that's a really
Now,
cool system.
yeah. Now, unfortunately, the San Jose Sharks, the Sharks Foundation, they do a lot of charity auctions. They do the warm-up jerseys for Halloween, Valentine's Day, all the holiday jerseys. They also do a set at the end of the year, worn a game or 2. It's all blind bids. You put it in a box. You can also bid via email as long as you get in early enough. Their philosophy is if you bid on 10 jerseys and you have the high bid on 10 jerseys, they're holding you to it.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh,
and I
yeah,
know
that could get expensive.
one person I know, it was one of the winter ones. I can't remember which holiday it was. She won 6 of them. And these are not cheap jerseys. I mean, I don't understand the whole practice jersey thing. I'm glad it goes to a great cause, but it's amazing some of the money thrown out there.
Yeah, I can't get behind something like that. I gotta have, for me, it's a regular season jersey. I balk at playoff jerseys even.
If you can pick them up for a cheap price, I get that, because like ours right now, or you can get some hellacious deals on some decent players. But yeah, God, to drop that kind of cash, I understand that too.
I think one of the hardest parts about having all these different ways that teams distribute their jerseys is for a general collector that might not only collect a specific team, or maybe you follow a player and that player bounces from team to team. It's hard to keep track of how all the different teams and all the different mediums sell their stuff, or when they're going to be doing it, because you got your Twitter, you got the Facebook updates and things like that, and they're using their Facebook and Twitter not only to give you information on when things are going for sale or auction, but they're also flooding you every day when they have games and updating you during the game as to what's going on, not just the information that you're looking for, and it's really hard. One of the things that we tried to do at GameWorn.us is create a page every year when we find out how a team is going to be distributing their jerseys. We put it on there so you at least know what their methods are. I mean, we might not know exactly when the jerseys are going to be for sale or anything, but at least you'll have a rough idea of how they sell the jerseys. And one of our objectives is to try and get teams on board to let us know, hey, this is when we're going to be selling jerseys and where we're going to be doing it, especially if they're doing anything sort of online or auction style, because then we can get the word out, and people that are either fans of the team or fans of a player on that team can have an opportunity to get a jersey that they're looking for, instead of trying to guess, gamble, or pick it up secondhand on the market. It's not an easy task.
Yeah, that's how you get people, even fans from other places, more involved. As you get that word out there, you get a bigger market. It's not just your fans showing up at those games that want those. They're fans in other parts of the country that like your team for their jersey design, whatever, and you can open that market so much.
Yeah, and it's really hard to get the teams to see the value in it, but you look at a lot of the collections that our members have out there. They don't have, or at least most of them don't have, just one specific team. They've got a bunch of them, and a lot of them just have a really weird mix, because they see a jersey, they like it, they want to get it. Oh, that logo's cool, that's awesome, let me grab one. Oh, my favorite player got traded to this team and he's playing for them now, let me get that one. So I mean, there's a broad spectrum here, and where they're missing the boat is everybody's just broadcasting to one specific audience instead of all available audiences.
But aren't they selling most of their jerseys?
Some are, some aren't. The ones that are selling good, and you never know how long that's going to last. I mean, the Buffalo Sabres did not have a great year, and they auction their jerseys on NHL auctions. And last year the prices were higher than this year. So you can kind of see it starting to taper off. I mean, I I think the performance of your team, except for the really diehard fans, do affect what happens with jersey pricing. At least from what I've
It's
seen.
difficult.
Of course, maybe the Buffalo Sabres are kind of a bad example, but it's hard to say. I mean, I don't know any diehard Buffalo Sabres fans.
I can't say that I do either. I know
It's
the
'cause they're
Sharks
all
struck-
dead.
That's it.
They all switched teams already.
Ouch.
And it sounds bad. Some of the stuff I look for too is I was hoping like at the Blues equipment sales, I like the Reebok 3.0 practice jerseys, and those are damn near impossible to find. I've seen very few for a lot of teams, very few out there in the marketplace, just because I like the look of those, and I like wearing practice jerseys a lot when I'm playing over. Of course, I'm not wearing game jerseys to play in, but it's nice when I'm playing stick and puck or whatever, having different teams practice jerseys, and that's some of the kind of things I look for, and I wish more teams would even do some of that because that's a cheap way to get. Yeah, you don't know exactly who wore it, but it's at least a cheap way to get a nice jersey.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I know at one point in time I had thought about trying to get at least one jersey from every team that exists and then start spawning off into the defunct teams and things like that. But, it's so hard to find some of the jerseys out there. Like, again, with Tampa Bay, you don't see any of them. And when they do pop up, the prices on them are pretty high because you don't see any of them. It's just really hard to find their point of distribution. I still don't think they're selling them. I think they're harboring them somewhere.
And that's what I've heard. I can't remember who the hell told me that, but somebody I talked to who had some, because Tampa used to sell them. I was able to track down, but this is mid to late 2000s, probably 2004, 2005, somewhere in there. My buddy Mike McKenna had been called up and played with Tampa for a handful of games in a season, and a year or two later, he's trying to track down the jersey. I put a thing out on some different boards and was able to track it down and get it to him. But I think it was one of those, they sold them quick through the store or sold them through, here's a list, buy them. But anymore, yeah, you don't seem to see any of those out there. And I think there's several teams that are that way.
Yeah, it's really tough to keep track of everything. The Grand Rapid Griffins, they auction off an awful lot of their jerseys. And I was tracking Luke Glendening when he was up there, and I was trying to get my hands on the Winter Classic one that I had from Grand Rapids. And it took me to find Chad that we had on the show last week to actually get one. I had to get him to bid for me at one of these auctions because they wouldn't take any like remote bids or anything like that. And speaking of remote bids, that's something new that I think the Sharks Foundation has been doing. I know previously they didn't accept any bids online or by email, but I think they are doing that now. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Paul.
And I will take credit for that. Yes, they are.
I think that's something that's really good for them. I don't know how many people have won from the remote bidding, but just the fact that they're taking it opens up, more of a fan base to them. Like I was saying last week, just the way that they are accessible kind of makes you a fan of what they do and who they are.
Yeah, I know a few people who have done remote bids have won.
That's very cool to see that work out. Chad from last week, when he made his remote bidding for me, they actually weren't going to let him run my card, but his ticket guy was really, really cool and ran it for us. So, I mean, if it wasn't for those two working as a team for me, I would be SOL and not happy. And I'm pretty ecstatic with the way that worked out. So, I mean, cool things can happen. And a lot of teams, an awful lot of teams, especially in the under leagues, auction off their jerseys at the end of the year. One of the things that we've set up at GameWorn.us to try and help people out is if you're able to attend an auction, you can see, if you want to be a good guy, you can bid on stuff for other people, but we got an escrow service set up so you can deposit money so the person bidding feels comfortable that they won't get stuck with a jersey. It's a really cool system. But we're trying to do that to help with people from all over the world obtain jerseys that they're trying to track or trying to get down, just because the availability might not be there globally. There's no distribution network set up for that. So somebody's got to help those guys out.
And that's what one of the reasons that makes this community great is us collectors. Yeah, we may not want this guy, but that team's in our city. We've got a lot of us would be glad to help get jerseys to other people, because I would expect the same thing if I'm trying to track something down. Somebody may offer to help me do the same thing.
Hey, and it's a pretty awesome thing when you actually go to these auctions and bid on things for people. The Toledo Walleye had some really cool jerseys. You might have seen it. There was a lot of media around it. The ugly Christmas sweater jerseys. I went to that auction and I wasn't even buying for myself. I had a list of jerseys with the top dollar prices that people wanted me to bid on them for them, and it was pretty awesome to be able to stand there, know a price that was the ceiling, and just have my hand in the air as they're auctioning this off, and I kind of looked like the man. I was getting applauses and things like that. I would go down, fill out my credit card information for one jersey, hear that they're auctioning off another jersey that was on the list. I'd walk over to the Zamboni door and start bidding right there from the Zamboni door. And, when you start walking away with handfuls of jerseys, winning them, people start getting excited about it. Like, look at that guy go. That guy is awesome. And you feel like the man. So it was definitely a really cool experience. So when I can, you can definitely consider me a proxy bidder.
And thank you for that Toledo ugly sweater auction. I know I appreciated that one.
Yeah, those were really cool jerseys.
Yeah, the pictures I've seen probably don't do them any close to justice either.
Oh, they look so much better in person than you can on a picture. I don't know what it is, if it's the pattern doesn't translate into a picture, but they are super cool in person.
And super hideous in person. They're
Definitely
wonderful.
hideous.
I mean, there were a lot of ugly sweaters the last couple of years. Toledo did it well. I mean, it is amazing what they came up with.
All right, guys, it looks like this is going to be a good stopping point. We're only a couple minutes away from our time limit. So we're going to go ahead and pick up this conversation next week if we can get everybody to join. I know Marco said he wanted to be with us, but he just couldn't. Hopefully we'll get to see him next week. It was always a good time to have him on. Jason, I want to thank you again for joining us on the show.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And Paul, it was awesome having you on. I hope we can get you on a few more.
Hey, if we do it later in the day, West Coast time things, happy to be here. So this is
Awesome.
fun. Thank you, Derek.
Yeah, definitely. Well, hopefully I'll see you guys again, and we'll try and get the word out for any continuation topics if we don't use an entire show next week for distribution. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll talk to you later.
Is Alexa Wolf a sexy assassin with a troubled past?
All right.